I just tried to clean dust off of my microphone and it made it worse, and so I hate that, and I'm very obviously aware of it, hoping it's not in the shot at all, and it doesn't even matter to you. But just so you know, I tried to clean some dust off. Leave me alone. We are going through a massive remodel at the house. Everything's crazy, and sometimes I don't have time to do things like dust my microphone. That's crazy. We're not making dust, and I don't even make soap here. So, whatever. We're going to make a soap paste today. I'm giving you a recipe. It's made out of milk. It's awesome, and I'll tell you more about all of those things in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And as I said, you are here for a soap paste recipe, and it's going to be awesome because I love soap paste, and this is the time of the year where everybody is making their whipped sugar soap scrubs, right? Everybody is interested in other fun ways that they can turn a whipped soap base into a whipped soap scrub or a shaved croap or all the things. And so we are going to start out with my favorite way to make a whipped soap base, and that is by using a soap paste. Now, what is a soap paste? First up, basically, a soap paste is going to be a hot process version of soap where you are using heavily concentrated oils and cooking it and then effectively wrapping it up, much like you would do with a soap dough or the like, so you can then use that and incorporate that into other products and turn it into other things, like a whipped soap base, like a whipped sugar soap scrub, like a shaved croap, even like hard bar soap, but also, even more importantly, like liquid soap. Soap paste is usually done hot process in the liquid soap maker's world. And we don't do a ton with liquid soap here, but even though I don't do a lot with the actual making and selling of the liquid soap over at soapandclay.com, I do use soap paste all of the time because there are lots of ways that you can use this and incorporate this into your line. And so today we are going to be working with my new favorite soap paste recipe and incorporating milks. And we will be ultimately incorporating milks in two different ways within the soap paste and then within the finished product. But the finished product is getting ahead of ourselves. So we are going to be making the soap paste first. And I do want to answer a couple questions before we get to the actual footage because I don't know how long the footage ultimately is. And I want to make sure that I give all of the information to you, to help you. So I get a lot of questions about soap paste on the other videos I've done about it. The biggest question I get is, do I have to use potassium hydroxide? The answer to that is no, you don't. This is a dual lye recipe, yes, and you can do this with just sodium hydroxide. That said, you are more likely to run into other problems further on when you were trying to make your whipped bases or your melt and pours or your liquid soaps, for sure your liquid soaps, because potassium hydroxide is a requirement almost for liquid soaps. And so it might not be the best idea to be eliminating your potassium hydroxide. That said, if you're only planning on using your soap paste to then turn into either another hard bar of soap or a whipped soap, you can probably get away with just using sodium hydroxide. But that's really going to be a more advanced soap making technique, and I do recommend doing the recipe as it is written first before moving on to eliminating the potassium hydroxide. So if you don't have it, get it. You're going to want to make a soap paste and use it in your life, because it cuts down on the cost of your whipped soap bases so freaking much. So freaking much. And this is a very easy way to have a really good ROI on your investment into the soapy world, for sure. But two, because, potassium hydroxide around is fun. You never know when someone's going to ask about, wanting a liquid soap or the like. So doing the soap paste is going to help you get there. So first, let's get to the making of the soap paste, and we'll talk more about all of the ingredients, why they're included, what they do within this recipe and what they will do for your finished products when we turn them into that. So let's get there. Okay, so today we are making a soap paste and we are going to be modifying this recipe pretty heavily. I am really relying on stearic acid within this one, and I am deciding that I'm not going to rely on stearic acid at all within this guy, and I'm instead going to incorporate some easier oils and ingredients for you to source. And so we'll be working with my big bubble blend, which I will be showing you soon. Now, this is a dual lye recipe. What that means is you're going to be using sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide working in consort in order to create a soap paste that is going to be easy to turn into other products, most notably within a liquid soap for its original intended use. But a dual lye soap paste can be used for whip soap, for sugar scrubs, for soap cropes, for soap dough, all kinds of other stuff. You can actually make solid bars from it as well. All of the jazz. Now, with this particular recipe, we are going to modify it for the milk portion because, again, we are working with milks for this series. And so within this, we're going to have our sodium hydroxide at a lesser amount than our potassium hydroxide. So, and then the water, I believe, is a 2-to-1. And instead of water, we'll obviously be substituting our milk for this. I'm going to use a coconut milk for this particular one because I wanted to play with the powdered version of coconut milk, and I didn't actually get around to editing the footage for the coconut milk soap I made from actual coconut milk, like from the coconut. I did it myself. It was all a thing. If you want to see that, you could let me know and I will make it a priority to edit it. But as it is, it's already in August, and we haven't moved on to the next section, the next deep dive that we're doing. So there's some soaps that got left out. And anyway, so yes, we have 1.45 ounces of sodium hydroxide, 2.25 ounces of potassium hydroxide, and 7.8 ounces of my water, or in this case, coconut milk. And that is going to be soaked at a 5% super fat. And I will be using my big bubble blend for this. So it's 30% coconut oil, 30% palm, 30% olive or canola, either way, 5% castor, and 5% something special, right? And so for this particular recipe, I do believe I'm using hemp for the something special. And I wanted to use this to ensure that no matter what we did, we had a nice big bubble that was going to exist within the finished products that could be made from the soap paste in totality. So within that 20 ounces of oil in total, that is how I came to my sodium hydroxide and my potassium hydroxide numbers. Obviously, this is why I give it in percentages for all recipes, so you can adjust this to the size of batch that you want to make. So what you would do with that is you would plug in however much, however many oils you want to use within your soap calc or whatever. And I don't believe there's a dual lye option within soap calc, so you would have to essentially have it. So you would do 10 ounces to get the amount of sodium hydroxide and 10 ounces to get the amount of potassium hydroxide. But there is another, I think Soap Genie, if I'm remembering correctly, does dual lye. I don't believe Soap Calc does, but if it does at this point, let me know. So the extras that we're putting in will be kaolin clay at 1%. I put lots of clay in every batch of soap that I make. My soap paste is no different. I'm going to put honey quat in at 1% and sodium lactate in at 1%. Now I'm using the sodium lactate to help firm it up and also to assist with the end product, whatever it is that I use, for a form of stabilization within things like your shave soaps or your whipped sugar soap scrubs. And again, as I said for today, the water is going to be the coconut milk, which is from powdered version, and I will be using the kaolin as the only extra for this particular that I'm showing you with this. So the honey quat and the sodium lactate, they are going to go into the finished product that we will make tomorrow. But you could put it in right now if that's what you wanted to do. The overall recipe for this is a very easy one. As you can see, we're only working with 4 oils. You don't have to source anything like stearic or any e-waxes or anything. And the ultimate goal is to create a soap paste that is going to be, well, a concentrated version of your soap that again we can turn into all kinds of fun stuff. So I really do recommend getting potassium hydroxide and having it around for instances like this. This total batch weight is going to be just over 20 ounces when it's all said and done, and it will make a bunch of soap paste, which you'll be able to see tomorrow when I give the recipes for just how much or little I use of the soap paste to turn into, something really awesome, and a whole bunch of that something really awesome. But with potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide dual lye solutions, you really can do it a number of different ways. I prefer to put the potassium hydroxide in first because it crackles, and then add the sodium hydroxide. Now, you can dissolve the potassium hydroxide into the lye and then add the sodium hydroxide after the potassium has done its thing, or you can just put it all in at the same time. For this one, I obviously just put it all in at the same time, and now I'm just going to give it a stir, and you can see it is discoloring with the coconut milk, again from the powdered, and so that is to be expected. We're going to see if we get any scorching and whether or not it matters in the overall product. For my part, I have not shown, there's not been any information that has been presented to me that suggests it matters at all for the finished product insofar as scorching is concerned. But we did talk about that in the FAQ a little bit. If you'd like to go back and review, that would be cool. And this is my big batch of my big bubble. So I'm pouring it out of my container and getting it ready to go into the crock pot where I will put the oils. They are not melted down, so some of them are at a semi-solid state and others are more liquid. And then I will put the hot sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide mix into that, so the lye solution into that, not allowing it to cool down. And I will just go ahead and put this into my crock pot on high for a little bit, and I will let it cook for a little bit before we do anything else. Now, you can, right now, this exact moment, take your stir stick to it. Oh, you see that big fatty layer there? All that coconut milk and everything has risen to the top. Lots of beautiful fats within all of that. We're going to just mix that up in there. Now, you can take your stir stick to it at this point and, use your immersion blender. I don't. I just give it a mix, make sure that it's reasonably well incorporated, and let heat do its thing. Because realistically, you could mix your lye solution and your oils and set it aside and do nothing with it. And if given enough time, it will turn into soap. I know this because I've done this. And so I will be showing you that footage pretty soon. I've been working on this crazy video for the past few months. It's an insane video, actually. And so we can see it in action at that point. But, for now, just as an FYI, you can do that. And so that's kind of what I do. I like to let heat do its thing within all of this and work to my advantage. But for now, let's move on to the cook and see all of the different stages. Okay, now on to stage one. We have this is after what it looks like after 10 minutes. Again, I haven't done anything with it. No mixing, no doing of the things. The consistency is very cool. So we have some graininess going on within all of that. We're going to let it go for another 5 minutes and then check it again. Now, as I said, soap paste, it's a concentrated form of soap that's created using the oils and cooking and all the jazz. And it can then be diluted with water to create wow, look at that. I spelled minutes so wrong. I'm going to have to go back and fix that. So it can be diluted with water to create a liquid soap, or it can be used as a thicker, more concentrated soap. The biggest difference between soap paste and the regular cold or hot process soap is the concentration of the ingredients. So this is going to be really good for cleaning and lathering, but if you don't dilute it properly, it can be drying for the skin. So we definitely want to make sure that whether you're using it for a liquid soap or for a soap paste or all of the jazz, or a soap base rather, a whipped soap base, you're going to want to make sure that it is properly diluted so we don't have things that are too drying, sucking too much of the skin's natural moisture from it. Now, this has gone for about 10, 15, 20 minutes. Is that what we're at right now? And at that point is when I do take my stir stick or my whisk to it. This is such a small amount of soap paste within this container that I have a difficult time actually using my immersion stick effectively. It does need to be covering the head of the stir stick in order for the immersion stick to really do its job. It needs to be immersed, as the name suggests. But I'm giving it the old college try in an overly big, crock pot for the size of the batch. But I want to show you guys a little easy, manageable batch that you can totally try and experiment with, if you would like. So you can see that it's trying to separate. It's doing its thing. It doesn't like it. At no stage are you ever really seeing that this is kind of done. And I would argue that it seemed most done at the initial stage after it had only gone for around 10 minutes, right? But as you can see, as it continued to cook, we did get that separation. So that would have been, I suppose, a hot process version of false trace. And you do want to make sure that you continue to let it cook till it starts looking, people call it Vaseline stage, but in reality, it's just your gel, because you are incorporating heat into this process, really forcing saponification to occur quicker and getting to that gel phase. So this is stage 4, 25 minutes in total on high. And as you can see, it got dark for sure, for sure. So if you don't want it that dark, obviously cook it lower, or you don't use milk, I suppose. I'm not pressed about it. You can see what it ends up looking like tomorrow within the products, and they all go white. But at this stage, it is done. It is ready to go. You can now put that into your containers and, well, into your, essentially, I'm putting it into a plastic, just a bucket, and I'm going to cover that with saran wrap to make sure that we keep it out of any air contact. If it has air contact, it's going to start to harden, it's going to lose its moisture, and it will not be as effective in turning into a whipped sugar soap scrub or a soap crope, although you can do that. We have shown how you can turn just regular cold process soap into both of those things before on the channel. So you can definitely check that out if you're interested in those videos. But right now, everything is hot, so I'm going to just put it into the container, cover it up, let it sit. I usually let my paste sit for a day or just long enough for it to cool down before I then do the whip part, but that's not actually super necessary. Obviously, if you're going to be turning a soap paste into a whipped sugar soap scrub, you do want it to be cool enough that it's not going to melt the sugars, So for that reason, I would say definitely cool it down. If you're just turning it into your regular whipped soap base, ready to just sit on the, counter, well, not on the counter, but, in your soap room, in a container and waiting for you to turn it into a whipped sugar soap scrub or a soap crope or the like later, you can totally just whip everything up right now and add the rest of your solvents in order to accomplish that. This is effectively a melt and pour soap. If you look at the Stevenson soap recipe or the soap base, it is sold as a melt and pour soap because that's effectively what it is. It's a hot process recipe that you have combined other ingredients, primarily glycerin, into to create a base that can be turned into other things. And so that's what we are doing. It is a very easy process, 25 minutes into this entire process, ready to go. That turns into so much liquid soap for sure, but a huge amount of your whipped sugar soap scrubs or your shaved cropes. But again, those will all be done tomorrow. For now, that is the recipe. You guys should make it and let me know what you think, because we're definitely going to be playing with this some more throughout, the rest of this week, but also further on in the year, because I love paste. And there it is, a very easy soap paste recipe incorporating milks. Now, the benefit that I'm going to be getting from this soap paste with the milk is going to be all of the beautiful things we experienced with the cold process in paste form. But so that's cool, but obviously it gives me an extra advantage because I can now doubly incorporate milk as I turn this into other products. So we will be doing that next for sure. Tomorrow I'm going to be turning this soap paste into a whipped soap base and showing you how stable it is. I'm also going to turn this into a whipped shave crope, showing you how stable that is. And then I'm also going to be turning it into a whipped sugar soap scrub. All easy things. So you're going to get 3 different versions tomorrow, and we will talk all about all of that for sure. First up, for the soap paste, I definitely think you guys should be using this and incorporating it into your line. As I said, it's a very easy way to cut down on your overall spend. And as things continue to get more and more expensive, And as we all know, whipped sugar soap scrubs are never going out of style, and they can be incredibly expensive to be purchasing the base. This is a really good way to cut down the spend for sure. This is a very stable recipe as well, so you should have none problems whatsoever turning it into your whipped sugar soap scrubs, which again, we'll do tomorrow. Everything else with this, the other questions I do get a lot with the dual lye soap paste recipe is how long do I cook it at what temperature? And for me, as I said, I was showing you in the video, we're going to do 5 minutes here, we're going to do 15 minutes here. I'm doing this all on high in a very big crock pot. If you do not have a very big crock pot and there's not enough room to do it, in the thing, I do recommend using your warm setting or your medium setting or whatever exists within your crock pot and paying attention to it. And that's only because you don't want it to overflow, because then it's a big old mess. If it does overflow, is it ruined? Absolutely not. It's totally fine. As you could see with all of the different stages that I showed you, at no point did it ever look done. You know what I mean? But the finished result, as I showed you, is soap paste. It's good to go. So I can take a portion of that, incorporate it with some other really easy ingredients, and turn it into magic. So definitely don't worry if you don't have the right Vaseline stage or your gel phase, whatever, with all of this. It's actually not as complicated as a lot of people seem to make it out to be. It will be fine. At the end of the day, all of the things that we do on all channels with all methods of soap, regardless of how somebody tells you it might be really difficult, it becomes soap. So you should be good to go. And this is definitely no different. So don't overthink it, for sure. If you use this recipe, let me know in the comments below how it went. I would love that. Sudsers, I love you. Thank you for existing. Thank you for being my people. You are excellent. For the rest of you, hi, you exist as well. Thank you for doing so and for existing here. If you would like to comment, subscribe, like, share, all the things, feel free. That'd be great. I'm out of here. But again, come back tomorrow because we are doing 3 different ways that you can turn the soap paste into something cool. So I will see you then for another round of soapy fun. Bye.